Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again, my co-host Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's Gucci, bro?
Hey, what's up, man? Friday, almost night, ready to end the week. Kind of a little disappointed from what I saw yesterday with Tigres, but that's a different topic. We're not here for that today. I don't really want to get into it. Although I just want to say, Siboldi, ponte a jalar. It's time, dude.
Hey, man, we're still alive. We're still alive. We're down one goal, but hey, anything crazier things have happened.
Man,
But yeah,
Samir, it was a bad game from Samir, man. I don't know.
yeah, it was a bad game from a lot of the Tigres players. But yeah, we're not here to discuss Tigres. We can make a whole episode on that video or on that topic. But yeah, we're gonna discuss something else that happened today, Friday, May 10th. Eltri released their preliminary roster for Copa América. Adrian, man, I know we were kind of analyzing it, talking about it today. A lot of big names that were kind of omitted. Many of those rightfully so. If you guys have been following PPG for a while now, a couple videos ago we made a video kind of saying that Jimmy Lozano has nothing to lose for this tournament. I guess he has his job to lose, right? But I mean, at this point, no one's expecting much from him after that Nations League, so he can YOLO a lot of these convocatorias, a lot of these players that he chose, make some not random, but some maybe Hail Mary selections, right? To replace old aging stars that maybe aren't capable or to the level that they once were. So I think we saw that here. I don't know if he brought necessarily the correct younger guys to kind of phase out the old guys. There was a lot of question marks to some of these players that he brought on and some that he left off. Yeah, Adrian, let's kind of go through the list here. If you want to go through that list for us, and then we'll kind of dissect position by position, and then talk about who were the big names that were left off the list.
Yeah, man, it was. I mean, when the roster dropped, right? It was a very interesting roster. Just not only because of the omissions, but because of some of the additions that he has. And there's one specific omission that I think it strikes me as the most important one. It's not the one that you think, but let's go down the list and we can keep on discussing it. So for goalkeepers, he has Angel Malagon, Ricardo Rangel, I think, Tala Rangel, or whatever he's, Raul Rangel, here we go. Yeah, I mean, Tala Rangel, Julio Gonzalez from Pumas. Then we have defenders, Jorge Sanchez from Porto, Israel Reyes from America, Brian Garcia from Toluca, Cesar Montes from Almeria, Victor Guzman, the Rayados player, Alexis Peña from Necaxa, Johan Vázquez from Genoa, El Chiquete Orozco from Chivas, Gerardo Arteaga from Rayados, and Brian Gonzalez from Pachuca. As midfielders, we have Melmachín Álvarez, Luis Romo from Monterrey, Jordan Carrillo from Santos, Eric Sánchez from Pachuca, Orbelín Pineda from EK Athens, Roberto El Piojo Alvarado from Chivas, Luis Chávez from Dynamo Moscú. We have Alex Montaño from Mazatlán, good player. Elena Beltrán from Chivas, and Charlie Rodriguez from Cruz Azul. That's actually big news. And then we have forwards or attacking players. We have Marcelo Flores from Tigres, Chino Huerta from Pumas, Julián Quiñones from America. We have Memote Guillermo Martínez from Pumas, santigimenez Feyenoord, Alexis Vega Toluca, Uriel Antuna Cruz Azul, and Diego Lainez from Tigres. So that's the list that Jimmy Lozano has put his, I guess, maybe not his Hail Mary, but he pretty much is making a bold statement here, I guess.
Yeah, putting his eggs all in this younger basket. A roster that is definitely younger than rosters of the past.
Yes.
But a lot of inexperience, I want to say, maybe more so in los delanteros than anywhere else, but we'll get to that. Adrian, focusing on porteros here, I guess one of the big news is the lack of we'll get to Guillermo Ochoa, but I think a lot of people, you and I specifically, were kind of shocked that he had Tala Rangel instead of Tapia, right? Fernando Tapia.
Yeah, man, that's agreed. Memo Ochoa's omission is big news, but to me specifically, if Jimmy Lozano is claiming to want to try new players and have more younger talent out there, and put them in a position where they feel the challenge and they have this competition mindset, why would you bring someone like Tala Rangel? He is not young. Yes, Chivas has had a decent season so far.
He's only 24, man. He's not an old part.
He's only 24, but is he really leaps and bounds better than Fernando Tapia? I think Fernando Tapia has made a case for himself. I don't have anything against Alarrangel. I just don't think that he is even ahead of Julio Gonzalez or Fernando Tapia in this case. I guess it helps to be in Chivas, but I cannot. I'm not gonna buy this one. I think it's just a move of, hey, if he's a Chivas player, call him up.
Yeah. On the other coin of that, the America legend Guillermo Ochoa, he's out. Rumors are circulating that it was more so not because he was chopped by Jaime Lozano, but more because he's trying to figure out what he's going to do here in the next couple months, where he's going to play his football next season. He's always said for the last couple of years that his goal is to make it to 2026 to play at that World Cup. So it's kind of shocking that he's not going to be playing this if that was still his goal, and that he asked to be removed from this because of finding his team situation, getting that sorted out here in the summer. But I mean, I think a lot of eltri fans at this point are kind of low-key happy for this, just because we get to see Malagon now as the head starter. I mean, was this something that was coming already for a long time, you think?
Yeah, no, it's I want to go back first to the news and pundits comments and whatnot, because it's very interesting. Where if you look at the pundits in Televisa, or those that we know have some sort of relationship with Memo Ochoa, they're all saying that he called Jimmy Lozano. He asked Jimmy Lozano, "Hey, keep me out of this list. I want to figure out my situation in the summer." Yeah, all of this stuff, right? He's pretty much out of Salernitana. He's not renewing, and he's trying to find what's the next deal. And even though we all know that he's probably going to end up in San Diego, but then on today's news conference or press conference, Jimmy Lozano stated that he called Guillermo Ochoa and he told him that he wasn't gonna call him up for this tournament because he wanted to see younger players. He wanted to see other I guess other team members, and Copa America was a great outlet for them. So it's just interesting to see how, even though Memo Ochoa is not getting called up, he's still a media or a press machine, or a very sore spot for Jimmy Lozano in general. On the other side of things is, I don't think this is the end of Ochoa at La Selección. I think Ochoa understands that his spot is safe. Whether if he's a starting goalkeeper or not, that's a different question. But I think he's going to make it to the 2026 World Cup just because of that record. I don't think he's going to let it go. I don't think he's going to, retire before that. So is this the end of Ochoa as eltri's keeper? Maybe no. Is this a chance for Malagon to make the case that Ochoa is no longer the first choice? Yes.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's a we were discussing how the age went down, the promedio, the average age of this squad, and a big part of that I feel is because of Guillermo Ochoa not being on this roster.
I mean, he's not 30, dude.
So. I mean, it's literally the same situation of 2010 with El Conejo Perez.
Yeah, literally.
Going to defense, man. I think a lot of the names that we're suspecting were here, right? But I think there's three names in particular that were kind of left off, and those, I guess, in my opinion, I mean, I believe you feel the same way. Jesus Gallardo, who I think we would agree that it's kind of time for him. Julian Araujo and Alan Mozo. Three big names that kind of did not make this roster. What do you think of the defense here?
I think I agree with your comment at the very beginning of the episode, saying that we have like a lot of inexperienced, very young players. And if you look at the roster for the defense, you can see in the names of Alexis Peña, for example, as someone who is highly inexperienced with La Selección Mexicana. He's been playing for Necaxa for a while now. He has a lot of mileage in ligamx, so he's not necessarily a fresh out of the bench player, but definitely a newcomer for La Selección, or at least doesn't have enough time playing for La Selección recently. I agree with you with Gallardo being left out. I think it was bound to happen. Even though he kind of sort of has a better performance with Mexico rather than a club level, I think it was time for him to cut ties with him. There's definitely other options out there that can actually cover for the same, I guess, work rate that he had in the name of Arteaga and maybe someone else. But the biggest omission for me, man, is Julian Araujo. I don't really understand why. I can see how maybe he was given the chance during Nations League and he wasn't necessarily great. But Jorge Sanchez isn't doing better in Europe. Jorge Sanchez is not a regular player for Porto. Julian Araujo is for Las Palmas. Julian Araujo has a lot of regular game time. Yes, it's not as big of a club as Porto. I guess you can make that argument, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't improved significantly from what we saw last year, right? Or at least what we saw during his time at LA Galaxy. So I'm really curious to understand why Jimmy Lozano is not calling him. I hope that this is a situation with maybe um, him trying to figure out his next steps during the summer, or maybe an injury.
I mean, he just came
But
back from a 4-game injury. He played like 20 minutes last game. Maybe he still has some kind of knock. I don't know.
yeah, and I really hope that's the case, man. I really hope that is the case, and not Jimmy Lozano just pulling the trigger too soon on a player that we all think has a huge ceiling, right? And then calling Israel Reyes over him. Israel Reyes, yes, is a plurifunctional player, but is he a solid right back? He isn't. So, and he's not even a strong center back, anyways. So, I don't know. And lastly, you mentioned that it's also the omission of Alan Mozo. For me, look, listen, I don't have anything against Alan Mozo. I think he's a better right back than Israel Reyes for sure. I think he's an interesting player. He's one of those that has a lot of attitude and a great personality on the pitch. But it is also not a lie or a secret that Jimmy Lozano doesn't like him, because during his time as the under 23 coach, he had an argument with him to the point that Alan Mozo pretty much grabbed him by the neck and asked him, "Hey, why are you not, putting me as a starting player or whatever?" Like Alan Mozo questioned Jimmy Lozano significantly during those times, and that's the whole reason why he didn't go to the Olympic Games, and that's the reason why he's not going to get called up with Mexico. Period.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, somewhat changed defense here with some notable additions, like you mentioned. But other than that, I think the back four remains the same. Would you agree? Jorge Sanchez, Cesar Montes, Johan Vasquez, and Gerardo Arteaga.
Yeah, I think that's what Jimmy's gonna stick to, at least for the first few matches. As he said, these three friendlies he's gonna have before Copa America are gonna tell him pretty much what he needs to see, and maybe make some changes. But I wouldn't be surprised if the first match that we see, the first friendly match that we get to see Jimmy Lozano with this new generation of players, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a line of four that we seen previously.
Yeah.
The big change will be that instead of having Gallardo, he now have Arteaga. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, moving on to medios, midfielders here. What were your first thoughts when you saw this roster here for midfielders?
I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting mix of players for sure. I think he's going to stick to what he's comfortable with, which is Chiquito Sanchez, Luis Chavez, and Edson Alvarez as the starting players. But the rest of them are actually quite interesting. The biggest name that I would like to mention right now is Jordan Carrillo from Santos. I think this is a player that Mexico lacks significantly. You and I, we have discussed this on previous episodes, and every now and then we have this chat where Mexico relies heavily on like long balls and playing a lot of counterattack and being very vertical, right? And one of the issues with Mexico is that it's unable to have a clean transition or a long possession between defense and offense. And it's always because they don't have a player with the characteristics like Jordan Carrillo, who's able to grab the ball and drag it between, the second third of the pitch to the last third of the pitch. So from, I guess, midfield on Mexico side all the way to the opposition goal. So I think Jordan Carrillo will be very interesting to see how he plays them, even though he's labeled as a midfielder here. And I think Jordan Carrillo thrives better on a lineup that isn't 4-3-3 like Jimmy Lozano really likes to play with. I'm just interested to see if this is going to change Jimmy Lozano's approach to have him as the link between the offensive, so going from defense to an offensive drive. I think he has like the that X factor or that difference that Mexico has been lacking for a while now.
Yeah, good point. What do you think of Andres Montaño being called up the Mazatlan player, a youngster, only 21 years old?
Yeah, unfortunately for Montaño, he plays at Mazatlan. Mazatlan is not a strong team, as you know, right? They're pretty much a joke in ligamx. They were fortunate that this season Puebla was even a bigger of a joke than they were, but Montaño has shown very good characteristics. The thing is, man, is that Montaño plays as a Edson Alvarez, so it's going to be very difficult for him to make a breakthrough. I think he will be valuable when Mexico has to safe keep a score or to park the bus, he has a lot of great defensive work rate, and he's also able to help on the transitions from the defense to the offense. He's more of a box to box midfielder, but with more of a defensive trait rather than offensive. I think he's interesting. I think he's one of those talents that he might not make it to Europe, but he probably will end up playing for Chivas, Tigres, America, or something like that in the next few years if he keeps up this good performance. But very interesting. It's just a shame that he probably won't play a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of these younger players aren't really going to play a lot. I think they're being brought on more so for the big tournament experience in preparation for 2026, to have that experience of having played at a big tournament, international tournament. Like we were saying in defense, I mean, he's probably sticking with the same defense as he's probably sticking with the same medios, right? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously Edson Alvarez, Luis Chavez, and I mean, like you said, it could be one of many others there in the midfield. But I think for
yeah.
the most part,
To me, he's trying to figure out his bench. Like
yeah,
one of the biggest issues that we've seen on the recent matches has been when you turn around and you look at the bench, you have minimum options.
yeah,
So
right.
yeah, exactly. He's just trying to figure out that, right. If I have 5 different subs, who's available so I can make either a on the spot change in my strategy or complement what I'm currently doing. So I think that this is the case right now. It's just finding that mix of, okay, who can I have that is readily available on the bench and can make a big change or help me withstand the score that I'm currently
Help me,
keeping.
and also help me maintain the level that I'm playing at, because
Yeah.
we've
Mhm.
seen, especially against, maybe not so against small concacaf teams, but when they play United States, when they play bigger teams, they might look lively for the first 60 minutes, Mexico. But when they go to their bench, there's a big drop off in quality, and I think that's, like you said, that's what he's trying to figure out. Trying to find a man for man replacements or how
Yeah.
to maintain a score. Yeah, good point. Good point. Moving on for the delanteros, man. Marcelo Flores, Cesar Huerta, Quiñones, Santigimenez, Alexis Vega, Antuna, Guillermo Martinez, and Diego Lainez. What are your thoughts on this? Any big omissions? Any big shocks on this one?
I mean, with big omissions, I guess will be RJ9, but I don't know how big of an omission it is. He hasn't playing that much. I think like
Right.
194 minutes. I don't know if it's the total season or just for the second half of the season. He hasn't scored since December 31st. I think he knows he's on his way out from Fulham. Um, it's just not a good position for him. Of course, Chucky Lozano is also omitted on this list. I would like to know why he got omitted, but I think I know why, dude. On that last game against the USMNT, they lost. He came out and make a comment
Oh
saying
yeah,
that he felt that he wasn't the right strategy or
yeah.
that Jimmy Lozano made some bad choices. He didn't call out Jimmy Lozano by name, but you can tell that he pretty much criticized his coaching ability, I guess, in a way. So I
Right.
think that's probably the end of Chucky Lozano as long as Jimmy Lozano. Sorry, not Chucky Lozano as long as Jimmy is the coach. But then again, I mean, he wasn't the second half of the season. He wasn't great for PSV. So I'm also like, well, more likely than we think, he's gonna end up in the MLS or back in Mexico in the next couple of years. Might as well try someone new, right? And the other omission that I see is Henry Martin, but he hasn't been doing great this season with America. A couple of injuries here and there. I think it's also reasonable to say, hey, it's time for us to find a new either starting or a competition for santigimenez. But the two big names that I want to mention here are the two Tigres players, Marcelo Flores and Diego Lainez. I can see why Diego Lainez is getting called up
Hmm.
because even though he has a couple of injuries during this season with Tigres, if you look at last season and this season, actually have been quite decent for him. He's been playing at a good level with Tigres. I am skeptical about Marcelo Flores. I am a Tigres fan, so don't think that I'm having like a biased opinion here, but I don't think Marcelo Flores is ready for this challenge. Now I can see people making the argument of, well, if you don't give him the chance for him to get ready at this level of the game, right? When will he get these opportunities to get ready? And I agree. I can see that, right? But is Marcelo Flores the best option that you have available at this moment? Or are there any other players that you can probably call up that are either at the same level with way more experience than Marcelo Flores? So I'm still a huge, I guess, skeptic on Marcelo Flores. And prove me wrong, man. I'm more than happy to welcome and eat my own words and say, hey, I misjudged Marcelo Flores. But
A lot of Tigres fans, man, will say, "Hey, well, Marcelo Flores has been this season pretty decent. He's been scoring, he's been assisting. But if you really look closely at his numbers, and I mean, we watch every Tigres game pretty much, he really only scores against smaller teams, right?
Yeah.
It performs against smaller teams.
Yes.
If you watch the Clásico from yesterday, where Tigres lost 2-1 in Monterrey, he was ghosting for a good portion of it. And Linus, I mean, he got that golazo. He was playing pretty decent. I agree with you. I could see why Linus is getting called up, but Marcelo Flores could be a wild card. I think we'll see. Prove us wrong. But sorry, go ahead. You're gonna say something?
No. I was just gonna say that, I mean, and looking at the remainder of the attacking players, it's if there's a chance, or if there was a time for Santigimenez to really make a breakthrough in this team, it's now. There's no competition behind them whatsoever.
Right.
You have Guillermo Martinez, who, yes, has been the best Mexican striker for the last year in ligamx. I give him that, but there's a significant gap between him and Santigimenez. If Santigimenez doesn't, take advantage of this opportunity, then I don't know when he's going to be the starting 11 striker for Mexico.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up next. It's now or never for Santigimenez.
Yes.
He's gonna have all the pressure on him of leading that front line, and he might be thinking, or fans might be thinking, it's not fair for Santigimenez to have all this pressure because this is a brand new team. There's a lot of youngsters, blah blah blah. But I think the core of the team is going to be the same. He won't have Jimmy Lozano there, but I think the front three are going to be Quiñones, Santi, and Antuna. More than likely. So players he's played with before in Nations League, Copa América, Copa Oro, etc. But yeah, definitely it's now or never for him. It's gonna be difficult. I mean, the group stage, you see the group, and it's probably the most even in terms of all the four groups there. I think any of those four teams can get out of the group, but it's really going to come down to, is Santigimenez firing? Is he getting the support he needs? And all the pressure, and yeah, it's now or never on him. This is your chance, Santiago Jimenez, because there's no competition behind you at all. Yeah, man. So that is the roster for eltri, at least the preliminary roster. As we get closer to Copa América, there's definitely going to be some friendly matches where we'll be able to see this roster in action. Maybe see some of the changes or formation line changes that Jimmy Lozano is trying to implement, if any. Or will he stick with his tried and true 4-3-3? We'll see as we move forward here. But at the end, man, as we wrap up this episode, where can listeners find us, dude?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram at Puro Pinche Gol. We post stuff every now and then.
Yeah, so be sure to check us out on Instagram and let us know in the comments below what were your reactions to this roster. Do you think he's messing up by not bringing Guillermo Ochoa or Julian Araujo or any of the other players that we mentioned? Do you think this is the end of Jimmy Lozano with eltri, at least for the time being? And what were your reactions as to some of the youngsters that they brought to the roster? Who are you hoping to see play in this tournament, or at least in the friendlies coming up to the tournament? Definitely like interacting with you guys. Copa América is getting close, so make sure to stick it here with PPG as we cover the tournament and on both sides of the Rio Grande River here, Mexico and USA on that tournament. So, Adrian, another good episode. See you next one, brother.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Likewise, man. See ya.